بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, in this session we will study recommendations for tarbiyah of children from before birth up to birth, inshallah. Then we will carry on with the first 7 years and the second 7 years and inshallah the third 7 years. So in a very inshallah structured way, we hope we can address some of the recommendations. I don't think that we can do justice, we can be all comprehensive, but inshallah we will mention some of important points. As I said, Islamically, tarbiyah doesn't start at the age of going to school or nursery. Even it doesn't just start when, for example, the child starts speaking, for example, or go further at the time of tarbiyah starts from the time of marriage, when you choose your spouse. Even I want to go further. What you do when you are not married, when you are single, also has impact. If a man before marriage or a woman before marriage had a pious life, had no relation with another person, and then his or her first relation with halal spouse, it has impact. So as soon as we become mature and responsible, we need to lead our life in a way that Allah would grant us, inshallah, tawfiq to have very good children and grandchildren and grandchildren. So everything helps. Of course, as I said before, and we will mention again and again, this doesn't mean that if you have missed, for example, certain things, your child is going to be bad. Or if you have, observed all the recommendations, your child is going to certainly become good. There are many other factors, and the main thing is the free will of the person, the child himself or herself. But these are very helpful, very important. One of the rights of a child that we have in our hadith is to choose a good spouse. For example, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, وَتَجِبُ لِلْوَلَدِ عَلَى وَالِدِهِ ثَلَاثُ خِصَالٍ. This hadith is in Tuhaful Uqul. Imam Sadiq says, among the rights of the child or father is three. He mentions three here. And one of them, which relates to our discussion, is اختياره لوالدته, to select a good mother, and also for ladies to choose good husband is one of the rights of your children. Of course, there is no child yet, but Islamically we believe that rights are not only for the things that exist. Even the things that are going to come in future, they have rights. For example, today, if we damage Earth, we are not only disregarding rights of people who are living right now, we are disregarding rights of future generations. Future generations have not yet come, but they have rights. So rights are not only for those who already are existing. Even rights are not only for human beings. Animals have rights, plants have rights, our organs have rights. It's very comprehensive. So one of the rights of a child is to choose very good spouse, which is going to be mother or father of the child. As we said before, for example, to have a good wife, a potential mother, is very important and one of the great blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Ala ukhbiruka bi khayr ma yaknizul mar." Shall I inform you what is the best treasure? Kanz means treasure. Kanz is not just gold and silver and pearls. The best treasure is what? Al-mar'atu salihah, a righteous wife. إذا نظر إليها سرته وإذا غاب عنها حفظته. A righteous woman, wife, that when this husband looks at the wife, makes him happy. An honest, trustworthy wife. Someone who doesn't rebel. Someone who has good akhlaq, has respect towards husband. Also for women, treasure is not money or job or etc. to have righteous husband. So selection of a spouse is one of the early things that we have to consider right from the beginning. If we want to be able to have children that will be, inshallah, helpers of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, so we need to consider also among general characteristics how much this girl that I'm going to marry or this boy that I am going to marry, if it's a woman or man, all have to consider about their spouse. Is this person a person who is a lover of Imam Mahdi or not? Is conscious about Imam Mahdi? Is muntazir, is active, he's actively or she is actively waiting for Imam Mahdi? Is someone who prays for Imam? Is someone who is familiar and maybe even better committed to recitation of du'a-ya'at, du'a-ya-nudba, salamun ala ali yasin? Of course, we shouldn't aim too high so that we don't find anyone, but at least consider this, and if there are people who are available, this can be a priority. At least the minimum is a priority. The minimum is at least some connection with Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. You cannot expect all of a sudden, miracles are going to happen and my child becomes, a lover of Imam Mahdi. You have to yourself work for that. You have to find a spouse that is on the same wave. You may say, and I am very conscious of this, I am very concerned about this, that unfortunately, sometimes it's not easy to find good spouse, especially for women. Sometimes the choice is very limited, and unfortunately, also, many times or always, women have to wait for proposal, although in the seerah and also in the contact, not only seerah of the Muslims, early Muslims, and in the life of the Prophet, etc., but in the seerah of ulama, we have many cases that father of a girl chooses the son-in-law. But in our culture, normally, women have to wait, parents of women have to wait to receive proposal. And sometimes there are not many boys around. Sometimes there are not many, good and reasonable and reliable around, especially in small communities. So I'm very concerned about this. But if we don't delay marriage, if good cases come whose akhlaq iman are satisfactory, inshallah, things are going to work. One of the things that we need to do for marriage and children, later we'll mention this, is to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and under Allah and per instruction of Allah, to do tawassul, especially to Imam Mahdi ajjalallah ta'ala farajahu sharif, who is Imam of our age. When you want to marry, make dua, especially in a time which is very sacred, in the night of Jum'ah, in the night of Qadr, in the middle of Sha'ban. In such time, in good places like masjid or shrines, make tawassul after dua, after sadaqah to Imam Mahdi ajjalallah ta'ala farajah, and say to Imam, "Oh Imam, I love you. I want to dedicate my life to you. I want to also marry someone that has the same understanding, or even if that person can be better than me, I can learn from that person. So please help me marry someone that is thinking the same, so that inshallah we can upbring a generation of people that they would be preparing for your coming." This is very important. So when even before marriage you think like this and pray and do tawassul, it has impact on finding good spouse and then on your children. The late Sheikh Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita, one of our great ulama, whose genealogy goes back to Malik Ashtar. And he was very learned, very pious, very much committed to helping poor people. It is said that many times, he used to himself go around in the, rows of Salatul Jama'ah, collecting money from mu'mineen who were, following him in Salat, and give to the poor people. One day, A poor person went and asked him for help. Help said, okay, after Salat, you know, we can do that. This person got upset. He thought Sheikh doesn't want to help him and split the face of Sheikh. Sheikh didn't get angry at him. Sheikh right away started collecting money and said to people, if you have respect for my, face or beard, please help. And Mu'minin helped and he gave to that person. So calm, so humble. This great alim, it is said that one day asked one of his very good students, Sheikh Muhammad Taqi al-Razi. Razi with Za is is a title for people who come from Ray, the city of Ray, southern Tehran. Shah Abdul Azim is Ray, Razi, like Fakhruddin al-Razi. So this Sheikh Muhammad Taqi al-Razi was a student of Sheikh Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita. And Sheikh asked him, have you married? He said, no. So Sheikh asked other students, wait. So he went with this Sheikh, Muhammad Taqi, and said, you are a good talent and a soldier of Imam Zaman, and I want to choose you as my son-in-law. I have two daughters. One is someone who has beauty, one is who has ilm and kamal, knowledge, perfection, knowledge and virtues. Which one do you want to choose? He knew that this Talaba wanted to marry, but maybe was not able to marry because of financial problem. People maybe were not giving their daughter to him anyway. Gave him the choice. Honestly said, one is more beautiful, one is more knowledgeable and virtuous. He said, I want the one who is more knowledgeable and virtuous. So he married the daughter of Sheikh Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this Sheikh Muhammad Taqi al-Razi one son and two daughters. All of these three children reached very high level of knowledge and taqwa. The only son, because there was one son and two daughters, the son became Ayatullah al-Uzma, Haj Sheikh Muhammad Baqir al-Najafi. This, which is now grandson of Sheikh Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita. This Ayatullah al-Uzma, Sheikh Muhammad Baqir al-Najafi, had 6 sons. All of them became great ulama of Iran. They were very much helping people. They were like acting as a refuge for people. The names are also available. So all was because Sheikh Ja'far Kashif al-Ghita chose a good husband for his daughter and a good wife for his student. Everything was based on will of Allah, no formality, no worldly considerations, no wrong, haya. Haya has to be right, because in our hadiths sometimes haya is haya or aqlan, sometimes haya or humqan. Sometimes people feel ashamed of learning, of asking questions. This is not good haya. So tawassul is very important. Another example, Muhammad ibn Babawayh al-Qummi, father of Sheikh Saduq, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayhi. Yesterday we talked about Sheikh Saduq in history of Shia Islam, and how he compiled collections of hadith like Ma'an al-Akhbar, Uyun al-Akhbar al-Raza, which are collections of hadith of Imam Raza, but he has many other books of hadith, Man la yahduru al-faqih, etc. Up to 200 books, mashallah, Sheikh Saduq had. Father of Sheikh Saduq was an alim and had no child. In the year 305 after Hijrah, he went to Baghdad and met Hussein ibn Ruh al-Nawbakhti, one of the 4 deputies of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, and asked him to pass on his letter for Imam Zaman, asking for having a child or children. The reply that he received was that he would not get children from his wife, this wife, but he will have another wife from Daylam, and Allah would give him 2 good sons with good akhlaq, would be alim and like blessed sons. After some time, actually, he married a lady from Daylam and was given 2 sons, Muhammad and Hussein. Both of them became great scholars of their time. Muhammad is Sheikh Saduq. So Sheikh Saduq was born in the city of Qom, and soon he became a great alim. When his father passed away in the year 329 after Hijrah, although he is in maybe his 20s, early 20s, he managed to continue the task of his father, and he was teaching, he was helping the Shia, he was acting as a young leader. And sometimes people were very surprised, about his sharp mind, about his memory, about his intelligence. And it is said he used to say, "Why are you surprised? Don't you know that I am born with the du'as of Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif." Later, the Shia ruler of city of Ray, because Buwayhids were ruling, they were Shia, they were ruling Ray and some central parts of Iran. And sometimes their power, expanded more. So he was invited by Rukn al-Dawla and his minister, who was very knowledgeable, Sahib ibn Abbad, to go to the city of Ray. Ray to Qom is about maybe 120 kilometers, something like this. So he went to the city of city of Ray. From Qom, he went to the city of Ray and became religious leader of that city. People like Sheikh Mufid are students of Sheikh Saduq. He had about 300 volumes of books, so the titles might be less. Anyway, many books, including Man la yahduru al-faqih, which is one of our 4 major collections of hadith, Kutub Arba'ah. So this dua of Imam Zaman, which is the result of tawassul and request of the father of Sheikh Saduq, that led to having Sheikh Saduq and his brother. Also, we have, similar stories that we find about, how people through tawassul to Imam Zaman married and they were given good children. Now, one of the things that we need to consider after marriage, we want to go a little bit faster, is there are certain adab, etiquettes for marriage, or when there is going to be marital relation. There are some du'as which are recommended in the books on marriage, even in Risala. Sometimes you can find some Risala, they have this. Salat is recommended. And one of the things that can be maybe learned from the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before conception of Lady Fatima salamullah alaiha is that 40 days before having marital relation, when husband and wife want to have child, if 40 days before they can engage in some special practices, special time of spirituality, chilleneshini. For 40 days, if you purify yourself for the sake of Allah, it has great impact. من أخلص لله 40 صباحا جرت ينابيع الحكمة من قلبه على لسانه. The fountains of wisdom will flow from heart to the tongue. But it's not just wisdom. Imam Baqir alayhi salam said, ما أخلص العبد الإيمان بالله 40 يوما إلا زهده الله في الدنيا وبصره داءها ودواءها وأثبت الحكمة في قلبه أنطق بها لسانه. This is Al-Kafi by the late Sheikh Shomali, volume 1, page 16, Babul Ikhlas. Imam Baqir says, no servant of Allah has purified faith in God for 40 days unless Allah has made his heart empty from love for dunya, zuhd in dunya. He's detached from dunya, and Allah would make him able to see what illnesses he has and what treatments are there. He would have insight to see da'aha or dawa'aha. And also Allah would make hikmah established in his heart, and then his tongue would speak with hikmah. So this change of heart, this insight, this detachment from dunya is very good preparation for having a child. So if for 40 days they can prepare themselves, husband and wife, be in dua, be in some kind of a spiritual height, it's very helpful for having, inshallah, very good child, inshallah. And in this period, tawassul to Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif can be very helpful. In these 40 days, Du'a Ahd should be recited. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, Man da'a ila Allah Ta'ala 40 sabahan bihadha al-ahd kana min ansar qa'imina فإن مات قبله أخرجه الله من قبره وأعطاه بكل كلمة 1000 حسنة ومحى عنه 1000 سيئة. This in Bihar al-Anwar, volume 53, page 95. Imam Sadiq says, whoever makes this dua al-Ahd for 40 mornings, sabah, becomes one of the helpers of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Faraj Sharif. And if he dies before coming of Imam Mahdi, Allah will bring him out of his grave There would be raja'ah for him, and Allah would give him for every word 1,000 hasana and would remove 1,000 sayya'ah from him. So these 40 days of preparation for having marital relation, for having child, are very important. And then also there are certain recommendations that you can find in books about marriage that should be observed at the time of having marital relation. There are du'as. There is a very strong recommendation of saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim so that shaitan would not be present and get engaged. So this is very important, to be saved from shirk shaitan, so that shaitan cannot, take part. Abu Basir, when heard from Imam Baqir alayhi salam some recommendations, and in particular to be careful about shaitan getting engaged, he asked, how can shaitan be a partner, be sharik? Imam Baqir said, if at the time of having relation with your wife you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, shaitan will run away. But if you don't remember Allah, shaitan will try to engage, to be affecting the child who is going to be conceived. Abu Basir then asked how this can be understood, whether shaitan was engaged or not. And Imam said it can be understood whether this child has love and friendship for us or hostility towards us. Someone like, for example, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, he himself is saying as a kind of pride that he killed 120,000 Shia. It is said that sometime when he was having his meal, he was asking a Shia to be killed in front of him so that he can enjoy his meal. We have hadith from Imam Sajjad and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam that his harshness, Hajjaj's harshness, is because of shaitan's engagement in his nutfa, in his conception, because his mother was not a careful lady. So there are certain etiquettes to observe, certain recommendation, instructions, the place that they are going to have marital relation, the time. There is a long hadith from Rasulullah to Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. You can find it in books about marriage. Again, these are not decisive and determining that if you do this, your child is good, if you don't do, your child is bad, but these are very influential. They can make things much easier for having a good child, having successful tarbiyah later. Some of the things that has to be considered when the fertilization takes place, when the child is conceived, in this period of pregnancy. For example, mothers moral, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental conditions are very important because the child is very connected to the mother. Not only the nutrition of the child is through the blood of mother, but the child is surrounded not only physically, but also from every aspect by the mother. The mother is, acting as a link between the child and the rest of the world. So conditions of the mother has impact on the child to the extent that in some hadith we read السعيد سعيد في بطن أمه والشقي شقي في بطن أمه. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if someone has sa'ada, felicity, if someone is fortunate in the womb of the mother. If someone is shaqi and wicked, is from the womb of mother. What does it mean? There are lots of discussions about this set of hadith. It doesn't mean that everything is fixed, but it means that what happens in those, for example, 9 months of pregnancy have great impact. And the kind of material from which this child is going to make his or her own personality is somehow fixed there. For example, you can have gold and make with gold what you want, and you can have silver and make from silver what you want. Yeah? People can choose different designs for this gold or silver, but in the end of the day, it's gold or silver. The one who has gold as material has certain choices. The one who has silver has certain choices. So what is important is that we know that those 9 months of pregnancy have great impact and make the choices later easier or more difficult. And maybe sometimes even certain choices become unavailable. Because they are too high to reach. It's not impossible from a logical perspective, but maybe practically would be not available. So it's very important to be concerned about the time of pregnancy. So some of the recommendations for this time that both father and mother, of course, should observe. It's not that, because we say, okay, because the child is in the womb of the mother, what father does is not important. Father's job finished. No. Father has to, first of all, provide spiritual, tranquil, peaceful environment for the mother, provide halal rizq, and also be continuing praying and asking Allah for help. But mother, of course, has big impact or bigger impact. Mother's nutrition should be from halal and tayyib. In some lectures about in Farsi and English, I have explained what does it mean to be tayyib. Tayyib is not just to be halal and pleasant. Sometimes, for example, something is halal. For example, I'm eating a food which is halal from my halal income, halal ingredients. Everything is halal. But for example, people who are needy are watching me and I'm not giving them food. This food is not tayyib. It's not blessed. It's not pleasant, although it is halal. So there are more requirements for being tayyib. Avoiding sins, even avoiding lahf and la'ib, things which may not be, sometimes they are sinful, but sometimes they are not sinful, but they are waste of time and making you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. performing wajibat, especially salat, and more particularly salat fi awwal al-waqt, on time. As much as possible, mother should try to be with wudu, to be da'imul wudu. When a mother is pregnant and also when mother is fostering. Acquaintance with the Quran, reciting Quran, listening to beautiful recitation of Quran, tawassul, and in particular remembering Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, saying salam to Imam, even when it is maybe with one sentence. It's not that you always need to recite, long dua. For example, Ya Sahib al-Zaman, adrakni. Ya Aba Salih, adrakni. Assalamu alayka ya baqiyat Allah. Things like this. Listening to recitation of Martyr, or we say in Farsi, Rosa of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ziyara, going to holy places, going to masjid, attending majalis, which are good majalis of ma'rifah, of light, of learning, majalis of especially learning about Imam Mahdi, Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Istighfar, repeated istighfar, asking for forgiveness. Salawat, continuous zikr of salawat. And also eating not only halal and pleasant, but also things which are nutritious, things which are recommended in our hadith. For example, in our hadith, we are recommended that a pregnant mother should have certain fruits, for example, like pear, like certain things like dates, for example, fresh dates. Melon is recommended, cheese is recommended. We have these things in hadith. Then choosing a good name for your child, a name if it's boy, and a name if girl, from after 4 months of pregnancy. This continues, so you can start giving name from 4 months of pregnancy up to the time that the child is born, up to 7 days. And then choosing proper name is one of the rights of the children. And also it is important that even if a child is not born, to give name, it's like giving identity. This hadith is very deep, please listen to this hadith. That Amirul Mu'minin salam says, Sammu awladakum qabla an yuladu. Give name to your children before birth. فَإِنَّ أَسْقَاطَكُمْ. If you have miscarriage, after 4 months, it's with soul. It's a full human being. It's not that by birth we become human being. When the soul is created, is a full human being. If there is miscarriage and this child dies before birth, still is going to be resurrected as a human being. Amir al-Mu'minin says, فَإِنَّ أَسْقَاطَكُمْ إِذَا لَقَوْكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَمْ تُسَمُّوهُمْ يَقُولُ السِّقْطُ لَأَبِيهِ أَلَّا سَمَّيْتَنِي. This is in Al-Kafi, volume 6, page 18. These miscarried babies, on the day of judgment, they would see their parent and say, Why you didn't give me a name? So it's part of the completion of a child. As I said, it's like giving an identity. It's very important to give a name. Maybe you say, what difference it's going to make? It's a human being, and has, all the, characteristics of a human being. No. When father or mother, who are parents of this child, give the child a name, it's like a new phase of identification of this child. It's a right to give name, and good name, actually. So from completion of 4 months of pregnancy, you can give a good name. And there are some recommendations about good names. Maybe, inshallah, I can mention some of the names in the next session, and then we will continue, inshallah, our discussion. And alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.